Beginners and intermediate. Have you ever been in church and the congregation started to sing, or a soloist starts to sing a song, and then you're supposed to accompany the congregation or that soloist, but they started singing before you? Do you struggle to find the key to that song? You're probably familiar with the song, familiar with the chord changes, but for the life of you, you can't figure out what key they're in. That's a problem. What about being able to listen to a piece of music and then go back at your piano and figure out the chords? Or even just listen to the music and to be able to say, oh, they're going to the 6, that was to the 2, that was to the 5, or that was to the flat 5 or the 13th. You've probably come across other musicians who can do that, and it just seems like magic. How are they able to tell with such confidence all these intangible areas of what's happening in the music? Well, to the beginner and intermediate, it might sound like one of those magical skills where you're either born with it or you're not. But I'm here to tell you that it's not something you were born with. Every person who you see has the ability to be able to speak about music with such confidence and tell exactly what's happening simply from hearing. It's a skill that they developed. And yes, there is a step-by-step method as to how to train your ear to get to that level. So we're going to talk about in today's lesson how to listen and what to listen for. So stay tuned. Welcome, and thank you for joining me here today for another piano lesson with Warren. This is the channel where we talk about everything gospel music, how to become a better gospel musician through tips, tricks, techniques, passing chords, reharmonization, all of that good juicy stuff that we like to discuss. But in today's lesson, we're going to talk about ear training. Because for the gospel pianist, a developed ear is our single most greatest asset. It's not how fast we can play a scale. It's not about technique, even though that is important. It's not about how much theory you can sit and spew, even though that is important. Those things are least important. Ear training sits at the top of everything we do. And so if ear training is that important, we need to spend about 50% of our time constantly trying to develop our ear. Now, there's a difference between hearing and listening. The average person who is not a musician, they hear music and they like music. But musicians, we take it a step further. We listen, because when we're listening intently, we're analyzing. We're trying to understand what is happening. How are the pieces fit together? And that's a skill that we try to develop and get better at day after day. So, if you're struggling with all these things, you don't know where to start. How do I find a key to a song? How do I transcribe music from a recording? How do I tell if it went to the 4 or the 5 or the 6? How do I figure out this cool lick that I just heard in this song? It starts with understanding one thing first. Key center. That's where it starts with. Understanding the key center. Every piece of music we listen to lives in a key. It's either in a major key or a minor key. But it has a key center, what we call the one chord or the home chord. And what you want to begin to do is to train your ear to recognize where that one chord is. For example, if I start to sing a song, we shall have a grand time up in heaven. We shall have a grand time up in heaven, have a grand time, walking with the angels, singing hallelujah. We shall have a grand time up in heaven, have a grand time. What key am I singing in? So the first thing you want to do is to find the key center and hum that to yourself. So you pick a note from the melody. We shall have a grand time. But what if I use this note as my note? I'm going to use this note to find a key center. We shall have a grand time. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, do. So what I just did, I picked one of the melody note, and then I try to sing a major scale where that note fits in the key. We shall have a grand time up in heaven. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, do, ti, la, so we shall have. So I could tell that my melody starts on sol, which is the 5th degree of the major scale. And I'm going to talk about how you can learn all of this stuff that I'm talking, right? But just hold on. So the melody starts on the 5th degree of the scale. We shall have a grand time up in heaven. Do, 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 ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. That is my home note. And so if I go to my keyboard now and try to find a note, so I know, okay, now I'm in the key of D. We shall have a grand time up in heaven. We shall have a grand time up in heaven. Have a grand time. Walking with the angels, singing hallelujah. We shall have a grand time up in heaven. I was in the key of D. So what I first did, I picked a note from the melody, and then I tried to associate it with a do. Remember, the melody note must fit one of those notes in the scale. And I'm using the Solfeggio system. Now, it's important to be able to sing your scale using solfeggio, because I strongly believe that once you can associate a note with a syllable, then it's easier for you to memorize that. And what we're trying to do in this exercise is memorize all the different degrees of the scale by associating different syllables. We call that the Solfeggio system. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. So those are all the degrees of the solfeggio. So do is the 1st degree. Re is the 2nd degree, mi is the 3rd degree, fa is the 4th degree, sol is the 5th degree, la is the 6th degree, and ti is the 7th degree, back to do. And this is something I've been practicing for years, and it really helps me to sort of mentally visualize the notes once I associate them with a syllable. So that's the importance of the Solfeggio system. And that really helps you be able to get comfortable in finding where the tonal center is, or the do, the 1. Once you can understand where the 1 is, it helps you to find all the other notes in the key. And from there, you can figure out your licks, you can figure out your lines, and you can figure out your runs, your chord inversions, your chord positions. Everything is built on this foundation of being able to readily identify any note of the major scale. Now, why am I telling you all of this? It's because I just released a course that teaches you all of this in details. Yeah, I call it the ear training for beginners and intermediate. Because if you want to get to the advanced level, you have to make ear training a priority. Especially as a gospel musician, your ear is your greatest asset. And so you need to start building on that. If you haven't been incorporating ear training in your daily exercise, your daily practice and routines, you're doing a massive disservice to your growth. And I've gotten a lot of questions and emails and messages for the past month now is like, how do I develop my ear? So when someone say, how do I know when to use a seventh or a ninth or an altered chord? How do I know which scale go with this chord? How do I know to find a key to a singer? How do I know how to transcribe music from a recording? All of that. The question you should be asking is, how do I develop my ear? Because once you have a developed ear, all of these questions are gone. They answer themselves. And so I teach you step by step from absolute beginner up to an intermediate ear training level, what to practice, how to practice it, so that you too can develop this magical skill of being able to hear something and tell what's going on. Remember, active listening is hearing plus understanding. And as a musician, that's what we want to train our ears to do. So let me show you real quick the course, Ear Training for Beginners and Intermediate, what it entails and why you should definitely sign up for this course. So right now I'm on my website and I'm going to navigate to the All Courses page, and we're going to take a look at this ear training course. It's right here. Ear training course for intermediate and for beginners. So once you're part of my membership program, you get access to not only this course, but to all the other courses on the website. We got song breakdowns. We have all sorts of courses for beginners. Once you're through with beginners, you get to move up to the intermediate. Then from the intermediate, you get to move up to the advanced stuff. But let's take a look at just the beginner's course, because this is what I think is really going to help a lot of you guys propel even faster in your growth. So we have 8 lessons. They're video lessons. So the first one we start with is the Solfeggio System, understanding that. Then we have different ways to practice the major scales, because again, what we're trying to develop is the ability to hear that key center, or what we call the one, or the do. This course gives you a bunch of tips and techniques as how to do that. Then we have the 2-note diatonic interval, because first, before you can hear all those different melodic lines, you first have to be able to hear 2 notes and understand what those intervallic positions are. Then we get up to understand, getting into more bigger intervals right here with perfect fourths and fifths, sixths, sevenths, and octaves. Then we talk about how to identify chord progressions by ear. Because when you're listening to a piece of music, there's so much happening. You can't focus on everything at once. That's how you get overwhelmed. So you have to pick the most important thing to focus on. And once you identify that, you use what I call deductive reasoning, which is basically asking yourself some series of questions and using the theory knowledge to then figure out what everything else is doing. That most important thing is the bass. If you can figure out the bass line, it's like a domino effect. Then you can figure out the chords. Once you figure out the chords, then you can figure out the specific type of inversions being used, and so on. Then we talk about how to find the key to a melody. That's one of the biggest questions I get asked. How do I find the key to a melody? By the time you get to this course, all these other techniques that you've learned in the previous courses will strengthen you enough to be able to find the key to any song. And then the last course we looked at is melodic dictation, which basically trains your ear to be able to identify licks. So a lot of the times when gospel pianists are playing, we have little licks and runs that we put in between the chords. This course helps you to be able to quickly identify what the melodic line is without even touching the keyboard. So then when you're at the keyboard, you can really get your fingers around that. So let's take a look at one of the courses to see what it looks like. Start with the Solfeggio System. So it's a video lesson. Now in lesson 1, we're going to take a look at the Solfeggio System. And that course goes all the way through explaining everything about solfeggio. Now, the beauty about how my courses are structured is that I have quizzes at the end of every lesson to really help you reaffirm the technique and the tips that was discussed in the lesson. So right here we have a course on pitch recognition, or a quiz on pitch recognition. So when I click on that, I get to start the quiz. So this first question is saying, using your keyboard or a pitched instrument, listen to the audio below, then write the correct note name on the line. So if I play this, it's telling me that so it's a G. See? And this is just sort of an introductory quiz to help you be able to identify pitch recognition. Because first, before we can identify the root or the home tone to a key, we first have to being able to identify any note we hear to pick out where it is. And you can see this quiz has 12 questions. So the answer is G. Put the G in, move to next question, and it's asking another one. So I could tell that that's a B right there. And you move on, move all the way through the course. What is the third degree of the scale in the solfeggio system? And we know that's Mi. And so on and so forth. So this course right here, ear training for intermediate, for beginners and intermediate, is really the ultimate course to get you going. If you're having problems identifying all these things we list, finding the key to a singer, transcribing chords and melodic lines, being able to figure out a melody, all that stuff, to be able to do that by ear, and importantly, to eventually do that without even the use of a keyboard at hand, this course will definitely set the foundation. I've poured a lot of thought into this course. I've been working on it for a few months now because I really wanted to get to the heart of the problem, how to be able to train your ears to do those things that you see the other guys are doing. Now, this is the first course in the series. It's for beginners and intermediate. There are going to be many other series that takes you all the way up to the advanced level to be able to identify crazy chords and all of that. That's something I remember once sitting down and be like, how will I ever be able to listen to a piece of music and tell that that chord is a 13th? It seems so far-fetched. Now I can do it. And it's something I've been able to do for years. I don't even know when I get there. All I knew is that these techniques is what helped me to get there. And so I wanted to package a nice beginner intermediate course with the foundation for you guys, and then we'll build on that. So if you click the card right here, whatever that thing is, it will take you to the website and you can go and check that out for yourself, or you can click the link in the description. Head over to Piano Lesson with Warren and go check out this course. I'm telling you, it's going to blow your mind. It's also going to challenge you. In a few weeks, you're going to be hearing things you never thought you'd be able to understand before. And it's not as complex as you think it is. You just need someone to point you in the direction as to what to listen for, how to listen to it, daily tips that you can practice even when you're away from the piano. All right? So until then, thank you for watching. My name is Warren McPherson. Keep listening, keep singing, keep practicing. If you haven't subscribed to the channel as yet, please give me a subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Also, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to just leave those in the comment section. I'm always in the comment section talking with y'all, and sharing advice and answering questions. So if you have any questions regarding the ear training, leave them below. I want to know what your biggest struggle is as it relates to ear training. Okay? Remember, every Wednesday, right here, this is where we talk about improving your skills to be a better pianist, especially for gospel music. Okay? Head over to Piano Lesson with Warren and go subscribe to the course and improve your ear. Remember, your ear is your greatest asset as a gospel musician. Nothing else matters until you have a developed ear. Okay? So see you next week, and bye for now.